Welcome back. We continue to follow developments out of Minnesota. The jury deliberating the fate of the former officer accused of killing George Floyd.
Derek Chauvin's trial lasted almost 3 weeks now. The jury got the case about 5 o'clock tonight after closing arguments took most of the day.
Joining us now to break down the trial and what happened today is attorney Enrique Latoison. Thank you for being with us. And just like they did in opening arguments, the prosecution played video of the last minutes of George Floyd's life many times today. Are prosecutors worried the jury will get bogged down deliberating the expert testimony and forget about the impact of that video?
Well, the prosecution here is using their most important evidence, which is that video. This is how they started out in the opening. This is what they used during the trial over and over again. And of course, when you get to the closing, they're going to focus on that video. That video is how it hits home. They're trying to tell the jury to trust their eyes. They went over this video over and over again. It's their best piece of evidence. And of course, they're going to use that front and center in their closing.
But Enrique, as you know, the defense team, they also played that video today, right? Including Floyd saying he could not breathe. So why did they do that, first of all? And does that run the risk of backfiring on them, do you think?
Well, as we've always talked before, when you look at a video, there's multiple interpretations to that same video that we all could be watching at the same time. So the defense actually started out with a kind of history of what took place up until that moment. They were showing different videos. They kept using the words reasonable officer. And I believe they were actually doing a pretty good job of kind of going along the way they were kind of putting the jury into the mindset of Officer Chauvin. Now, once they got to that part and they showed the exact moment that George Floyd actually passed away, they kind of stopped. They kind of went away from that, and they didn't want to kind of focus on the part of when he actually was passed and he had already had died, how they continued to have the knee on the neck of Mr. Floyd. So I think at some point, you know, he kind of went there, but then he kind of got away from it. And I believe at the end, once again, it's going to be how the jury interprets this video.
And both sides spent a considerable amount of time walking the jury through the legal elements of each charge. Now, normally that's reserved for the judge to do.
Well, I actually think it was kind of refreshing. This is something I always do, and I do believe on this trial, both sides did it. What they did was they broke the elements down, and they used the elements, and they talked about their best arguments in reference to the elements, and they talked about each and every element of each crime that the jury has to decide. Now, if either party were to misstate the law, the judge would interject, and they would, correct that. But, I believe they were basically trying to give the jury something to work with and something to argue when they went back to deliberations.
Enrique, as a defense attorney, you know better than anyone, right? That juries are very unpredictable, hard to get 12 people to agree. Could the prosecution already be preparing for the possibility maybe of a hung jury, no verdict on some or all of these charges?
So what the prosecution did in this case was they did 3 charges. They have a top charge, which has a maximum penalty of 40 years, which is that second-degree murder. Then they have another charge, which has a maximum penalty of 25 years, which is the third degree. And then you have the manslaughter, which has a maximum charge of 10 charges, 10 years, okay? So what they did in this particular case was they gave all 3 of these charges to the jury. And I believe they did that just in case there has to be some kind of wheeling and dealing with the deliberations. And they wanted to make sure that they had the top, the medium, and the less charge to allow them to be able to come to a decision, just in case they can't decide on all of them. It's the prosecution's ability to decide what charges they're going to give the jury. In this particular case, they give them 3, so hopefully they get all 3 or 2 or 1. And I think that's kind of hedging their bets here.
Enrique Latoison, thank you. And we, of course, are awaiting a verdict from Minnesota. As soon as we learn their decision, we will bring it to you live. Enrique, thank you. Of course, make sure you have the NBC10 app to get that breaking notification when it happens.
All right, turning now to your NBC10 First Alert forecast as we take a live look at Citizens Bank Park, where the Phillies are getting ready to play tonight.
See the sun a little bit. Let's go to NBC10 First Alert meteorologist Brittany Schitt.
Great weather for the Phillies game going into tonight. We are seeing a few clouds. We did see a few showers down towards the shore, but those are clearing up as